This is the English 2.0 podcast. Communicate globally. Raise your level. Speak English naturally. Hello and welcome to episode number 17 of the English 2.0 podcast. My name is Al and thank you again for watching. I'm coming to you today from the heart of Tokyo. This is Shinjuku Gyoen Park, and I'm here today because it is cherry blossom season. It is spring. It's a beautiful time here. As you can see over my shoulder, we have some cherry blossoms nearly in full bloom, and this is a really great time of the year here in Tokyo. So for those of you who are not so familiar, the flowers blossom usually at the beginning of April, and they last for about, 10 days to 2 weeks or so, and then they fall off. So this is it's a short period of time, but if you ever have the opportunity to visit Japan or the Tokyo area, I highly recommend that you come in April, the beginning of April, and see them for yourself. In today's main topic, we're going to talk about how to increase your TOEIC score by 100 points in a very short amount of time. And in today's English 2.0 tip, I will tell you how you can check your pronunciation with a simple iPhone application. So please stay tuned for that. But let's start as usual today with a pronunciation point. Alright, in today's pronunciation point, we're going to talk about the difference between travel and trouble. Alright, some tough words here because they are often confused and misunderstood by many of my students. For example, in a class I'll ask, so please tell me about a travel experience. And often students will hear trouble and start to tell me a story about a time when they're in trouble. No, tell me about a travel, when you took a trip somewhere. I want to hear about that. So how can we tell the difference between travel and trouble when we listen? What's the key? All right, well actually the beginning and end of the words are the same, very similar. So we don't need to worry about that so much. It's the middle part that's different that we need to focus on. So let's take a look. So the TR is the same in both, the tra sound, travel, trouble, that's the same. Now let's look at the first vowel sound. Now if we look at travel, here in travel we have a flat A sound. Okay, so that's the A like apple, or hat, or cat, or camp. Okay, that tra. So your mouth is going to be more flat as well when you say that. So travel, tra. Okay, one more time. Tra. Okay, please try it. Okay, very good. Now let's look at trouble. Okay, now trouble is a little bit different sound, if you can hear the difference. Travel, trouble. Okay, now trouble is that basically it's kind of a flat U sound, or some people call it a schwa sound, and it's the sound like in of, okay, or one, that sound, the sound. So tra, trouble. Okay, so if you really take them individually, okay, so listen carefully. Okay, hopefully you can hear that. One more time. Okay, travel, trouble. Okay, so really focus on that first. Now the next part of the sound is the B and the V, of course. So with the V sound, remember, the difference is V, our bottom lip, be tucked under our teeth, our front teeth. Okay, so travel, vol, okay? Vol. And with trouble, with the B, our lips are touching, coming together. B, bull, vol, bull. That's the difference. Okay? So with some practice, you should be able to start hearing that and also produce that yourself with your mouth. Now the last sound of the word is also a bit troubling for students because when they look at the word spelled travel, they expect to hear this nice, beautiful vel sound, travel. But if you actually listen to native speakers, we never say travel. So we always say travel, vol. Okay, so actually that's going to be the same sound as trouble, bol, vol. So that kind of sound is going to be the same. So you can't depend on the last sound to distinguish the difference. You have to focus on that middle part. So the flat A, tra, vol, plus the V, vol. And the schwa, or the flat U sound, plus the B sound, trouble. Okay? So one more time. Let's do an example sentence. I love to travel. Okay, great. One more time. I love to travel. Okay, and let's do another one with the trouble. Okay? I hate trouble. Okay, I hate trouble. Okay, just some very simple example sentences just to show you the difference, how they're used in a sentence, and you can hear the difference in a sentence rather than only the word itself. So keep practicing those, work your mouth muscle, go for those two sounds, and you'll be able to speak and hear the difference very soon. So practice that every day. Good luck. If you would like more natural sounding English pronunciation, please sign up for my free pronunciation course at alsensei.com/tips. Alright, in today's main topic, we're going to talk about how to increase your TOEIC score by 100 points. For those of you who are not familiar with the TOEIC test, it's just a test of English comprehension to test your understanding of English, particularly with listening and reading. So we can apply these same tips to the TOEFL test or IELTS test or any kind of English test that you're taking. But since TOEIC is quite popular here in Japan and in different parts of Asia, I'll mention the TOEIC test, but you can apply it to any one of these kind of tests. So to be honest, when I started the podcast here, I never thought I would talk about the TOEIC test or any kind of test because I'm just not really into that kind of topic, but something happened which kind of changed my mind. And to tell you the quick story, I just was helping my brother-in-law, who is Japanese, and he needed to get a certain score on his TOEIC, and he asked me to help him prepare for that. So I agreed, of course, and I trained him for a couple of months and was able to raise his score by actually 110 points, from 600 to just over 700, and which was a huge accomplishment for him, and we were so happy that he did that. So through that, through training him, I was able to pick up some really good ideas and techniques that I think can help you when you prepare for your next TOEIC test. So let's start. I've pulled out 3 things from that training that we'll talk about here today. The first thing I want to mention is the importance of taking practice tests regularly. And when I say practice tests, I mean do the actual test, okay, the real thing, with a timer. Okay, so the idea here is we want to duplicate the real experience as much as possible, as closely as we can. We have to experience that time pressure when we practice. I see a lot of students reading like vocabulary books or books for TOEIC. They're just reading through the questions, which it's okay, but it's not really the most effective way to prepare, simply because we don't know what's going to be on the test. We don't know what vocabulary will be there. We don't know if the ones that you're studying in the book are actually going to show up on the exam. So I don't want to say it's a waste of time, but it's not a good way to spend your time, in my opinion. A better way is to study that separately, but use the knowledge you have and try to use it better on the test through self-management. And we learn that by practicing a complete test with the time pressure. So that is why it's so important to do practice tests with a timer. Now, I would suggest once a week at least, if you have that time, or once every 2 weeks is good, up until your test. So if you have 1 or 2 months before your test, it's good to schedule those times when you can do a full, complete practice test, and try at least 2, 3, 4 of them to prepare. I would say at least 4 would be good. Now, the other reason I mentioned doing practice tests is it's also to back on the principle that we've talked about a lot on the podcast, which is balancing input and output. So I think a lot of students are doing a lot of input, a lot of kind of vocabulary building and grammar learning, which is good, but also we need to balance that with output. And so with TOEIC, or the test, output is actually doing the test, practicing the test. So that is the other important success principle here, is to practice the output part of this TOEIC equation. So definitely try at least 3 or 4 practice tests before the real test, and I think you will see much better results, because you will learn how to manage your time and how to manage yourself better. All right, now after we've done 1 or 2 practice tests completely with a timer, the second thing we need to do is analyze the results. So when I did it with my brother-in-law, we took a look at his test results, and we started to notice a few things. So as you know, the TOEIC section is divided mainly into 2 parts, the listening section and reading section. And then there are certain sections within those. So we just looked at his results in each of those subsections. So on the listening, there are 4 sections. And then we looked at the reading section. There are 3, which are numbered 5, 6, 7. And listening, we noticed a few things there. I'm not going to talk about that so much now. I'd like to focus on the reading part, because that's where we can really install a good strategy. But when we looked at his reading results, we noticed that he was really better at section 6 and 7. He was a little bit weaker in section 5. Just briefly speaking, section 5 has a lot of questions, maybe 30 or 40 questions based kind of to test your grammar, reading and grammar. Section 6 and 7 more look at some particular type of material, like an email message or an advertisement, and then reading it and then choosing answers based on that material. So we saw that if he was able to spend a little time to read, he was really strong at finding the answers down below. So he wasn't so good at section 5 and just kind of grammar knowledge and vocabulary. So we just analyzed the test results that way. So the second step is analyze the results and identify your strengths and weaknesses.
And that'll help us with the next step, number 3. All right, so the third thing we want to do after you've identified your strengths and weaknesses is to focus on your strengths and then set a strategy. All right, now the reason we want to focus on our strengths is because the TOEIC is a timed test. So there is a limited amount of time, and most students tell me that they can't finish all of the questions. And so it doesn't make sense to waste our time on weaknesses when we could be using the time for our strengths. I think a lot of students overlook this type of strategy. And so in the case of my brother-in-law, he was very strong at section 6 and 7, but not very strong at section 5. So in the reading section, you don't have to go in order if you don't want to. It is completely within the rules to, you can't go back to listening, of course, but you can stay in the reading, and you can start on section 6 or 7, and there's no problem with that. So we decided to focus on his strengths, starting with section 6 and then 7, and then do 5 at the end, and where he could if he had limited time at the end, he could do more guessing on section 5 more quickly, rather than speeding in section 7. And so the strategy is a little bit more in depth than that, but that is the simple idea of identifying your strength and then focusing on that in order to utilize the time better. Remember, the TOEIC test tests 2 things. Of course, it tests your English knowledge, but it also tests your self-management, your time management, okay? So don't forget that fact. It's very important. We don't have unlimited time, and so you have to be able to manage yourself when you do these kind of tests. It's very important. And so that is step 3, which is, again, focus on your strengths and set a strategy to utilize that strength. All right, so actually I'll add one more little thing. This is maybe number 4 or 3B. But after you have set your strategy, do one more practice test and test your strategy, see how it works. And for example, with my brother-in-law, we set the strategy to start section 6 first, and then go to section 7, and then back to 5 at the end. And give that a try and see how it works, see how you react with a timer. Now, if it works for you, you can maybe, fix a little bit of something that's not quite right, but give it a try and then use that strategy, whatever's working for you, use that in the real exam. Okay, so that is about it for my thoughts on the TOEIC, and it really helped my brother-in-law increase his score by over 100 points in a very short amount of time. So I know you can do the same. Don't overlook these key ideas when you are facing your next TOEIC test or TOEFL test or IELTS test or whatever test it may be, and give it a try. And let me know if you have a good TOEIC tip for us. Please let us know. Contact me, ask@alsensei.com, and I'd love to hear your tips. And we'd love to share them with the English 2.0 community. So we hope to hear from you, and good luck with your test preparation. In today's English 2.0 quick tip, this is a way you can check your pronunciation to see how accurate you sound. So check out this demonstration quickly.
Hello everybody, and I'm here to show you another cool application from Nuance Mobile. Well, this is Dragon Dictation on the iPhone. Let's meet at the restaurant at 7 p.m. and we can go over the sales figures, period. See you then. I speak my information, the text comes back. Very powerful application from Nuance, built on Dragon Naturally Speaking. Thanks.
All right, so that is an application for your iPhone, maybe available on Android as well, and that is called Dragon Dictation. And so as you saw in the demonstration, he spoke just a simple sentence to record a note, but you can use that actually to test your pronunciation. And if, for example, if it brings up a different word, you can then think about how you can pronounce it more clearly so that the software can pick it up correctly the next time and you can keep practicing. So it's just a simple application you can download for free. Try it out. It's not perfect software, but you can at least check to see if, how close you are to a native speaker. So check it out. It's free, and that is the quick tip for this week. All right, we'll have to call it a day, but thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully those tips will help you with your TOEIC test or whatever English test you will be taking in the near future. And I'd love to hear your ideas too. If you have some tips to share with the English 2.0 community, please send them to me by email. As always, ask@alsensei.com. Follow me on Twitter @alsensei. And I've just opened a new Facebook page, so please visit me there, and you can check out some videos I've done that are only available on Facebook, and that's at facebook.com/speaknaturaleNglish. Hope to see you there and join the growing community there. So thanks a lot again for joining us, and we will see you next time.